There is a difference between someone who is fascinated by your presence and someone who is devoted to your essence. Attention is easy to give. It sparkles, it flatters, it feels intense and immediate. But attention disappears the moment it is no longer fed. What we are talking about here is something much deeper than attention. We are talking about a kind of love that goes beneath your surface and recognizes something lasting within you. This kind of person does not only admire how you look when you are confident, they notice who you are when you are quiet. They are not only drawn to you when you are shining in front of others, they also stay when you are unsure, when you withdraw, or when you are tired of always being strong. That is one of the first signs of something deeper. Attention is drawn to performance. Real connection is drawn to authenticity. Many people fall in love with projections. They see what they want to see. They attach themselves to an image, an idea, or a role that you seem to play. But when someone truly connects with your deeper self, they are not trapped by illusion. They become curious about your contradictions. They stay patient with your complexity. They are not threatened by your independence or your depth. Instead of pulling away when they see your fears or wounds, they lean in with respect. Another sign is this: they do not try to reshape you into something easier to handle. When someone only wants attention, they slowly try to shape you into what keeps that attention alive. They encourage the parts of you that please them and quietly ignore or discourage the parts that challenge them. But when someone values your deeper self, they accept your wholeness. They do not ask you to shrink your intensity or soften your edges just to make them more comfortable. They understand that your light and your shadow exist together. Real love is not only aware of your visible personality, it also senses what lies underneath it. This level of connection goes beyond charm, habits, or the version of you that you show to the world. Every person has a visible self. This is the version that knows how to speak properly, how to act confident, how to show humor, intelligence, strength, or calm. It is the social self, shaped by expectations, upbringing, culture, and survival. Most relationships exist at this level. People respond to how you appear, how you behave, and how you make them feel in the moment. They interact with your personality, not always with your inner world. But beneath this visible layer, there is another world. There are fears you rarely say out loud. There are desires you do not fully express. There are old emotional wounds that still shape your reactions. There are instincts you try to control so you can stay acceptable to others. This inner world is not always neat or logical. It contains contradictions. You can feel confident and insecure at the same time. You can want closeness and still fear being vulnerable. You can be strong for others while secretly feeling exhausted and wishing someone would notice. Much of this operates beneath awareness. Even you may not fully understand it at times. When someone only loves your surface self, they love what is easy to see and understand. They admire your strengths, enjoy your humor, appreciate your stability, or feel drawn to your energy. But their connection depends on that version of you staying the same. If you change, struggle, withdraw, or reveal emotional complexity, their interest may fade because it was never rooted in your deeper reality. It was attached to a surface image. To truly understand someone beyond that level requires a different kind of awareness. It means sensing what is not clearly spoken. It means noticing when irritation is actually hurt, when silence is actually protection, when independence is actually a fear of needing others. It is not about reading minds, it is about emotional attunement, a sensitivity to what lies underneath behavior. This kind of awareness does not only respond to what you show, it responds to what you struggle to show. When you act strong but feel tired, it notices the exhaustion. When you use humor to cover discomfort, it senses the vulnerability. When you pull away, it does not immediately assume rejection. It considers that you may feel overwhelmed. It engages with the deeper reasons behind your behavior, not just the behavior itself. This level of being seen can feel uncomfortable, because it exposes parts of you that you usually keep hidden. The unconscious mind holds shame, doubt, and unresolved pain. When someone sees those layers without judgment, it creates a rare sense of emotional safety. In that space, you do not have to perform all the time. You can be unsure. You can contradict yourself. You can admit confusion, and you are still accepted. This kind of love also accepts that people are unfinished. There are always unresolved patterns, blind spots, and areas still growing. Instead of demanding perfection, it allows space for development. It does not reduce you to your mistakes or your coping habits. It sees those as signs of deeper experiences that deserve understanding, not judgment. In this kind of connection, intimacy becomes something that transforms you. You start to understand yourself more clearly because another person reflects parts of you that you may have ignored or hidden. Their presence becomes like a mirror, showing both your wounds and your potential. The relationship becomes a space where hidden parts of you slowly become accepted, not through pressure, but through understanding and patience. When we talk about real connection, we are talking about something rooted in depth, not in attention or validation. These are two very different emotional experiences. Validation and attention can feel powerful. They stimulate the ego. They make you feel noticed, important, chosen, and temporarily lifted. When you receive attention, your nervous system reacts. You feel seen, desired, and valued. But attention is often conditional. It depends on excitement, novelty, performance, or response. It needs stimulation to survive. Depth is different. It is not built on stimulation. It is built on understanding. A connection based on validation often depends on reassurance. Do you like me? Do you approve of me? Do you need me? It relies heavily on feedback. When that feedback weakens, insecurity grows. The bond becomes unstable because it is based on reaction instead of recognition. In attention-based relationships, people often become performers. One person performs confidence, attractiveness, or mystery. The other performs admiration, desire, or fascination. The connection becomes an exchange of images rather than truth. It feeds the ego instead of the inner self. When life becomes difficult, or appearances change, or confidence drops, that kind of structure becomes weak because it depended on maintaining an image. A deeper connection works differently. It does not require constant admiration. It is not driven by intensity or praise. It is supported by curiosity about the other person's inner world. It wants to understand how someone thinks when they are alone. What shaped their fears? What memories still influence them? What contradictions they carry inside? Validation says, "You make me feel good about myself." Depth says, "I want to understand who you are, even when it does not benefit me." Attention seeks quick emotional reward. Depth can stay present even in silence, confusion, or discomfort, without rushing for reassurance. In validation-based connection, conflict feels threatening because it risks approval. Disagreement can feel like rejection. In deeper connection, conflict becomes something to understand. It reveals differences in experience, emotion, and perspective. Instead of breaking the bond, it can strengthen it because both people are focused on understanding rather than winning. Attention-based relationships often feel very intense in the beginning. There is strong chemistry, constant communication, and excitement. But intensity is not the same as intimacy. Intensity rises and falls quickly. Depth builds slowly. It grows through honesty, shared vulnerability, and steady emotional presence. It develops when two people allow each other to be imperfect and real. Some people seek validation because it reflects the image they want to maintain. Others seek depth because they care more about emotional truth, growth, and authenticity. Depth also allows space for individuality. Because it is not based on constant approval, each person can grow separately without fear of losing the connection. Silence does not mean disconnection. Space does not mean rejection. The bond is not measured by constant expression, but by consistent presence, even in ordinary moments. When we talk about true affection, we are also talking about light and shadow. Every person contains both. The light is what others easily see and admire. Kindness, intelligence, humor, strength, ambition. These are the qualities that are often rewarded and accepted. The shadow is what is usually hidden. It can include insecurity, jealousy, anger, fear, neediness, or emotional confusion. It can also include unrealized potential, hidden creativity, or desires that were suppressed. The shadow is not bad. It is simply the part of you that has not been fully accepted yet. In many relationships, love is directed only toward the light. But when the shadow appears, when you are overwhelmed, insecure, or reactive, that love can start to withdraw. This creates pressure to only show your best self. Over time, this can make you feel like only parts of you are acceptable. True affection does not reject the shadow, it understands it. It sees that emotional reactions often come from deeper pain, not from who you truly are at your core. When you are irritated because you are overwhelmed, it looks beyond the irritation. When you feel insecure, it does not treat it as weakness. It stays present, even when emotions are uncomfortable. This does not mean ignoring harmful behavior or removing boundaries. It means understanding the difference between who someone is and what they are going through in a moment. Anger can hide hurt. Defensiveness can hide fear. Withdrawal can hide exhaustion. Real understanding looks deeper than the surface reaction. When someone knows their darker emotions will not lead to rejection, they no longer need to hide so much. They can be honest. They can admit mistakes. They can show uncertainty, and the connection remains. This creates a space where integration becomes possible. The split between the public self and the hidden self begins to soften. There is also humility in this kind of love. It requires recognizing your own shadow too. When both people understand that they each carry fear, pride, insecurity, and unresolved patterns, they approach each other with compassion instead of judgment. Instead of trying to correct or control each other, they try to understand. This reduces projection, where people criticize in others what they have not accepted in themselves. A connection that accepts both light and shadow is more stable because it is real. It is not based on an ideal image. It allows growth because it does not demand perfection. It sees value not only in strengths, but also in the honesty it takes to face weaknesses. It values truth more than image. It chooses presence over illusion. And this is why being fully seen can feel uncomfortable at first, before it ever feels safe. That is two hearts speaking without words. That is a soul agreement that continues to exist even when nothing is said out loud. It is a connection that stays alive in silence, holding two people together even when life tries to separate them. Even when distance grows, even when circumstances pull in different directions, something deeper keeps that bond from fully breaking. Even when the world tries to pull you apart, there is still something inside that remembers. If you feel drawn to think of someone right now, that feeling is not random. It is the mind reacting to something the heart never forgot. And somewhere deep inside, you already know who this is about. You already know the face that appeared in your thoughts the moment you started listening. If you feel the urge to type the first letter of their name somewhere, it is not about proving anything. It is about expression. It is about something inside you wanting to be acknowledged, even in the smallest possible way. Only you truly understand who this refers to. Only you understand the meaning your heart has attached to them. That feeling is personal, quiet, and deeply hidden from everyone else. But carrying this alone has been heavy. You have been holding emotions that were never easy to explain. The weight of loving someone you feel you are not supposed to love. The weight of hiding what you feel so no one misunderstands you. The weight of acting normal when your inner world feels completely different. The weight of saying you are fine when nothing inside actually feels fine. You have been stronger than most people realize, because real strength is not always visible. It is not always loud or praised. Sometimes it is simply the ability to wake up each day and continue carrying emotions that no one else sees. It is continuing life as usual while your heart is dealing with something complicated in silence. There is a kind of strength that comes from hiding everything inside because you believe no one will understand. You cannot easily talk about it with friends. You cannot explain it to family. You cannot put it into words without feeling judged or misunderstood. And so you keep it inside, even when it feels heavy. If you ever tried to speak about it, you might have felt that the world would immediately try to label it, fix it, or discourage it. People often try to explain away feelings that are deeper than logic. But what you feel is not something that fits into simple explanations. It exists beyond easy understanding. So you stayed quiet. You learned to carry it on your own. And in that silence, something inside you began to change. You started realizing that your feelings do not automatically become wrong just because they are not easily accepted by others. What you feel is not wrong. Your heart is not broken for feeling deeply. Your heart is simply capable of holding emotions that are intense and real. It is capable of attachment that does not fade easily. It is capable of love that does not ask for permission before existing. Take a moment and notice your own heartbeat. It is steady even when your thoughts are not. It continues without confusion. It continues without doubt. In its own way, it reminds you that you are still here, still feeling, still human. You have been holding tension in places you did not even notice anymore. In your chest, in your thoughts, in the way you react to silence or memories. And for just a moment, allow yourself to release that pressure. Not forever, not dramatically, just enough to breathe a little lighter. You are safe in this moment. There is no one here to judge you. There is no one here to interrupt your thoughts. It is only you and what you feel inside. And sometimes, that is where the truth becomes the clearest. Something inside you has shifted recently. You are not the same person you were when this connection first became important to you. At first, there may have been confusion. You may have questioned yourself often. You may have wondered why this feeling was so strong and why it would not go away. You might have even questioned your own character, wondering if something was wrong with you for feeling so deeply. You might have thought too much about timing, about circumstances, about what is right or wrong according to others. But over time, that confusion began to settle. Slowly, quietly, something changed inside you. You stopped apologizing for what you feel. You stopped pretending it was meaningless. You stopped forcing yourself to act like it never mattered. And instead, you began accepting a simple truth. This feeling exists. It is part of your experience. It is part of what you have lived through emotionally. It does not disappear just because you try to ignore it. Carrying this does not make you wrong. It makes you honest with yourself. It makes you someone who is no longer willing to deny what your own heart is clearly expressing. Even if no one else understands it, you understand it. You are no longer ashamed of what you feel. You may not announce it to the world. You may not speak about it openly. But inside yourself, you have stopped treating it like something that needs to be erased or corrected. That quiet acceptance has changed the way you carry yourself. Even if no one notices from the outside, something inside you has become calmer. You are no longer chasing the same way you used to. You are no longer emotionally reaching out in the same way. And that change is something the other person can feel, even without words. People can sense when energy shifts. They can sense when attachment changes form. They can sense when emotional pressure is no longer the same. There is a difference between needing someone and simply loving them from a distance. And that difference changes everything. Because when you are no longer desperate, the entire dynamic feels different. When you were uncertain, there was a kind of emotional safety for them in your confusion. When you were constantly thinking, constantly hoping, constantly reacting, the connection stayed emotionally active in a certain way. But now, something is different. Now there is more calm in you, more distance in your reaction, more balance in your presence. And that kind of peace can feel unfamiliar to someone who was used to emotional intensity, because your peace means you are no longer trapped in waiting. Your peace means you are beginning to exist fully on your own again. Your peace means you could choose yourself if you needed to. And that realization can feel unsettling to the other person, not because you stopped caring, but because you stopped abandoning yourself. Your silence now carries a different meaning. It is no longer silence filled with confusion. It is silence filled with awareness. And that kind of silence is very different from emotional absence. What you feel is still valid, and choosing yourself is not betrayal of love. It is simply survival of your own emotional balance. You were not meant to lose yourself completely inside what you feel. And deep inside, something in you already knows this. Even if your emotions are still connected, your awareness has grown. You are no longer the same version of yourself that existed at the beginning of this experience. There is something deeper happening in your inner world. A quiet understanding that not everything needs to be acted upon. Not everything needs to be chased. Not everything needs to be forced into reality. And in that space, you begin to see things more clearly. You begin to understand yourself more than before. It is telling you that this connection is part of a divine design, not a punishment, not a test. You are not failing a design. The divine placed this love in both of your hearts because it serves a purpose that is bigger than what either of you can see from where you stand right now. You dream about this person, not every night, but when you do, the dream stays with you all day. It feels more real than your waking life. You wake up and for a second you think they were there. You reach for them, and the empty space beside you says everything your mouth cannot. Songs find you that carry the exact words you need to hear. Not because you searched for them, but because they were placed in your path. You feel a warmth in your chest that has no explanation. That warmth is not random. It feels like their energy reaching for yours across the distance. A quiet feeling washes over you in ordinary moments, and you just know, without knowing how you know, that they are thinking of you right now. These are not coincidences. There are no coincidences in a story guided by something higher than us. These are signals. Divine timing is moving, not on your schedule, not on theirs, but on a timing that sees further than either of you can see right now. And while life unfolds in its own way, you need to remember something important. You do not owe them your waiting. You do not owe them your nights. You do not owe them the peace you worked so hard to build. Their feelings for you may be real, but their feelings do not set your timeline. Their pain does not decide your next step. You can love someone deeply and still choose yourself. You can hold someone in your heart and still move forward. You can wish someone well and still keep your door closed until they are truly ready to show up fully. That is not cold. That is not cruel. That is wholeness. You are not here to save someone from their own fear. You are not here to wait in silence until someone finds the courage to meet you in the light. You are here to live, to grow, and to become everything your soul came here to be. And if this person is truly part of your path, then nothing you do to honor yourself will push them away. Real love is not threatened by your peace. Real love is drawn to it. You already gave more than most people would give. You already loved harder than they were ready to receive. You carried space for two hearts when they could barely hold their own. You were not wrong for any of it. But you are also not wrong for finally choosing yourself. Right now, even if you cannot see it, something is shifting. They feel it too. They are sitting somewhere acting like everything is normal, but their mind is not calm. Their thoughts drift back to you without warning. They replay moments that seem small to the world, but meant everything to them. And the reason they feel unsettled is because they sense the change in you. The version of you that would wait forever is becoming the version of you who understands their own worth. What you feel is not wrong. What you want is not wrong. What you dream about in the silence of your heart is not wrong. The world draws rules and lines. The world decides how love is supposed to look, who is supposed to love who, and when it is supposed to happen. But the soul does not follow those rules. The soul recognizes what it recognizes. When your soul met theirs, something ancient woke up inside you. Something that does not care about age, distance, timing, status, or any of the limits the world tries to place on love. The soul knows truth, and the truth is that you feel connected to this person in a way no rule can erase. There is a belief that the heaviest burden a person can carry is the life they did not live. Do not let this become your unlived life. Do not let fear or outside opinions become the cage that keeps you away from your own truth. This does not mean you must act immediately. It does not mean you must force anything open right now. It simply means you must stop punishing yourself for what you feel. Loving someone is not a crime. Fear is what creates suffering, and you are not the one living in fear here. If you believe this connection was placed in your life for a reason bigger than what the world can see, then you already understand something deep inside you that does not need permission from anyone else. Something is shifting in this story. Something is breaking open in the way this person thinks and feels. The wall they built between their public self and the part of them that thinks about you is starting to weaken. And whether they admit it or not, they are beginning to understand that what they feel is not something they can ignore forever.